Bunny, thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Well, it's great to be here, Allie. Huge respect for you and everything you bring to the
Thank
conservative
you.
movement. Knowing theology and political education, it's so important.
Thank you so much.
I lead Christians Engaged. We're a nonpartisan Christian ministry, mostly focused on the state of Texas, but now looking our eyes around America. But our goal is to help people build habits of prayer, voting, and engagement for the sake of America. And we do that through simple education on the importance of prayer for our city, state, and nation, our elected officials, the importance of voting in every election, and taking our civic duties that has been given to us by our founding fathers as important sacred trust that we have as we the people, and also as believers in Jesus. And then also to help people engage in basic civic engagement education, how to understand how the sausage is made, how to respond to God as it relates to the preborn, human trafficking, whatever initiatives or issues that they want to get involved with. So we're kind of like the on-ramp, the beginning place for Christians to get active.
Well, sounds like something that's super necessary. I know that there are a lot of Christians that are asking the questions that you guys are answering. What does God have to say about abortion? What does God have to say about the family? And what is the biblical definition of justice? All these things that the secular world seems to be trying to answer, but Christians want to know, like, what does God's word say? And you guys really help Christians understand that. Now, Tell me what happened between your organization, Christians Engaged, and the IRS.
Well, we applied for our tax exempt status like every organization does when we launched back in December 2019. And 18 months later in May, we received a letter from the IRS pretty much denying our tax exempt status. And they did that, and they said in writing that biblical teachings are, quote, affiliated with the Republican Party, which is interesting because I always felt like the Bible was a kingdom document, not a partisan document, right? So, they pretty much violated their own rules. And we do everything that any other organization does, which is educate people on their civic duties, educate people from a biblical perspective. So the situation here with the IRS is that if that decision was meant to stand, then that could affect really every Christian organization that teaches the Bible around America.
Right, because they could say that this is a partisan organization when it's not, simply because they're espousing biblical values. So what happened after that? Obviously, you tried to reverse the decision or appeal the decision. So what happened?
Yeah, we had an amazing friends at First Liberty Institute, Kelly Shackelford and his team. Leah Patterson is my attorney. And they appealed for us, a 12-page appeal. It was beautiful, to the IRS, laying out that they violated their own rules and violated what they should have done with our case. And 22 days later, by a miracle, they repealed this decision. It was such a big miracle because we had so many people around the country that stood up and prayed for us, that wrote letters to the IRS, that took this as a personal affront even to their own biblical beliefs. And it was such a powerful movement to see people stand up. And then we had members of Congress, Senator Mike Lee, Senator Ted Cruz, Chip Roy from Texas, that led a letter to the IRS commissioner. And then another letter was written from Jim Jordan and Kevin Brady to the Treasury Commissioner to lay out the egregiousness of this case.
And that encourages me a lot. Obviously, I'm troubled, disturbed by their original decision, but that there is still power in people speaking up and Christians standing up and saying, or just people who care about fairness, people who care about liberty, standing up and saying, okay, this is not right. That actually has the power to affect change. I think there's a lot of people out there that think that their voice doesn't matter, that they don't have the power to influence our elected officials or bureaucrats, because that's so often the case. Now, what do you think is the implication for other organizations or even individuals if, for example, the IRS decides, okay, we decided to reverse our decision there, but going forward, we're still going to hold to this principle that anyone who tries to hold to biblical principles is partisan and Republican, and we're going to kind of discriminate against them? What would that look like?
I think we have to be diligent as believers. And when I saw the letter and I thought, did they just put that in writing?
Yeah.
We had a choice even within our board of directors. Do we just go on and create a 501c4, or are we within the law?
Right.
And so thankfully, we made the decision to stand up and of course, with our friends at First Liberty, get great counsel to help us in this endeavor. But it's a wake-up call for believers that, government is the only thing that can encroach upon our liberties, right? And so we have politics in our schools and our churches all throughout America. We're dealing with politics. But government, and why it's so important to involve ourselves in our civic duties, is because government can encroach upon our rights and our liberties. So all of us have a responsibility to stand up and make sure our voices are heard when we see any kind of encroachment on that. And that's what our friends at First Liberty does to help defend people around all of the country on our First Amendment rights. But we all have to be diligent to find that wherever we find it in our communities, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think what bothers a lot of people is the clear double standard that it seems like that IRS has shown towards Republican organizations, not that yours is Republican, but organizations that it sees as Republican or partisan, and versus how they treat, for example, like an organization started by someone like Michelle Obama that they see as more neutral. And we've seen that in the past with Lois Lerner under the Obama administration, and people are troubled by it. But I think your story, it goes to show that when Christians are engaged, when they're praying, when they're speaking up, when they're reaching out to our representatives, that positive change can happen. And hopefully it can change. It can affect positive change on an even larger scale as well. Do you have a hopeful view of the country, and that if Christians are engaged like you guys want them to be, they do speak up and stand up for the things that matter, vote in accordance with their biblical values, that things can change for the better?
I do. I think this is a great story of hope for a lot of people. We hear a lot of bad news, right? We're constantly feeling like we're under attack as believers. But this is a great example of how if we stand up, our republic works. The founding fathers gave us a gift in this nation. We undervalue it so many times, and we discredit the gift we've been given as Americans. And so if we do that, if we take responsibility for our cities and our communities and our Chamber of Commerces and our state and our nation, things can change. And God is raising up the church right now to be stronger lights than ever before. In darkness, we know that in the midst of darkness, as it gets darker, the light shines brighter. And that's what's happening in our nation right now. And it gives me so much hope because we are seeing people are waking up, they're feeling a burden for America, and they're trying to respond. And that's what we do at Christians Engaged, is plug them into simple steps to respond to what the Lord is saying as it relates to their call to the nation.
That's awesome. A lot of people are looking for tangible steps to take. And I'm glad you guys are providing that. Can you tell everyone how they can support you, how they can find more information about this?
Absolutely. Christiansengaged.org is our website. We've got hundreds of articles, podcasts, videos on there. Take our pledge to pray, vote, and engage, and we'll remind you to pray with thousands of other people on Mondays at 5:55. Remind you to vote, remind you to be engaged. And everybody lives very busy lives. We understand that. This is just one of the parts of your Christian walk, but we want to help support you as a parachurch ministry to help you pray, vote, and engage regularly.
Awesome. Well, Bunni, thank you so much. This really was a huge story that I think all Christians really need to pay attention to. We've got to be diligent. We've got to be watching for this kind of stuff because it's slowly and silently that freedoms are encroached upon. But like you said, when Americans stand up, when we start caring about these things, praying about these things, doing something about these things can change for the better. So thank you for being such a pioneer in that. I really appreciate it. And I encourage everyone as well to support you and to support Christians Engaged. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for everything you do. And let's just keep standing up.
Definitely. Thank you.